Well, I believe that we're live right now. Is that correct, Danielle?
It looks like it.
It looks like it. All right. Well, happy Rare Tuesday, folks. For those of you guys who are watching us in the Facebook Live group, YouTube, or Twitter, I am Tony Jalen. Joined, it says on the screen Tony Jalen, but it's actually Danielle Jalen with us here today. You know, we've been talking for the last few weeks around the topic of regaining focus. We're third or fourth of the way through the year. And the last couple of weeks, we talked about number one, getting the big picture, right? Getting the big picture of really what you want. And hopefully by doing the exercise through the workbook, there's my workbook here. You can see the workbook there. You got reinvigorated or you poured more fuel on the fire. Then the other week, we talked about assessing like what's really going on in your life right now in terms of your focus. And this week, we're going to talk about step 3 of regaining focus, and that's eliminate. So let's go back to the camera example that we talked about before. Like when you grab a focus with a camera or your phone, right? When you tap on a certain area of the phone, you eliminate the focus of the other areas in the frame. And if you don't tap this area, the lens will focus on everything, which is why it gets blurry. You can give a 100% to one thing, but I think, Danielle, we all know if you're giving 50% to 500 different things, your result may not be as good.
Correct. I think
and the same thing.
zero attention on anything.
Right. And the same thing applies to our mind, right? It's like, what they say is, if you decide not to make a decision, it's still a decision. And you sit in this limbo place. And I think it's so easy just to get up in the day and go through the mundane of, oh, I got to do this, I got to do this without being intentional. Okay, here's where I'm going to put my focus. Here's where I'm going to be putting my energy. And this step right here is all about deciding your ultimate focus, determining what you want to give your 100% to, and deciding which part of the frame you want to be clear and allowing everything else to be a bit more blurred. Danielle, in your experience, when you've done this in the past, in terms of like really lock in and focus, what were some of the benefits that you gained in terms of figuring out what things to eliminate?
Well, things to eliminate were just things that were taking up mind space that didn't need to be. So scrolling through Facebook, watching shows on Netflix or whatever streaming. A lot of times too, like even Sundays, it was football, like just mindless sitting and watching football. Like, was there a reason to do it? No. So just eliminating even things like that. And what's helped then is just to be more present in the things that actually matter. So with our family, and one of the biggest things that I notice on weekends that we have volleyball is I don't go on social media. I may at the end of the day post a few pictures about what happened during the tournament, but a lot of the times like my phone doesn't come out for anything unless I'm running around the arena trying to find you because they're trying to start our match early or something. But really I'm not on my phone. And I think that just goes to show really what your life can be like. Like a lot of the times you're on it because you just don't want to focus your attention on the things that actually matter. So I think that's like a great example for myself, like how much does social media really need to be a part of my life?
Right. I mean, that's why this is an important stage, right? Deciding what distractions that you can eliminate in your life. And it's a critical step in the process because up until this point in, regaining our focus process, we've come up with goals and ideas, but we haven't really come up with a way to eliminate distractions. And distractions are inevitable, aren't they? They're going to happen, right? And especially in today's world where there's so much demanding of our attention and our time. So removing distractions, eliminating distractions is a must. So we're going to go through some steps today in order to do that. The next thing I might surprise for those of you guys who are watching, and this first step is in eliminating distractions is to schedule it out. So if you don't already follow a planner or calendar, this is the first thing you do. And what do I mean by this? In the planner, you got to schedule out your distractions. Let that marinate for a little bit. You got to schedule out your distractions. So when I say that to you, Danielle, what does that mean to you?
Well, I think it's, knowing that those things will come up within your day, but like putting a time on when you're going to allow them to come up. Because I think the more things that you can control in your day, the more that you are able to focus on the things that really matter.
Yeah. And I think too is like when I've learned, like when I'm scheduling my posting on social media, when I'm going ahead and even, looking at my emails, when I schedule it, because I know it's a distraction, right? I know it's something that I go to. I find myself so much more effective. I feel like that whatever that activity is not owning me. So it could be a favorite TV show, you have every night. You always put that in your plan and you hold to it. And that way, when you're trying to go ahead and wrap up an assignment at 6 o'clock, you won't be tempted to work with the TV, get on the TV channel to get it beforehand. Here's the next one. And this one has like really been important for me because it's about being intentional, living with intentionality, right? And what I mean by that is you got to schedule time for others. Depending on the nature of what you do, you may often find yourself being interrupted by others, whether you have an office or you work remote. Human distractions are everywhere. So how do you go about scheduling time for personal distractions, for human distractions?
Well, I think for me, a lot of the times what I do is I look at what you and Ezekiel have going on. And then I'll either one, schedule my workouts to coincide when you have activities going on, or I will schedule workouts to do with you guys based on what your evenings look like. And for me, that is hard because I like to get to bed early, but at the same time, if you guys are busy and I want to spend that time with you and I'm intentional about our relationship as a family, it may mean sacrificing to a later bedtime so that we can have that time together. Those are, I guess, kind of one of the biggest things for me of that. And then as well as like, as far as eating, like we may not be on the same eating schedule, but still like providing meals to you guys at the times that you are looking for them, not based on necessarily what my schedule would be, whether you guys are coming home from practice later or whatever, or feeding you before practice. Just making sure that I'm more aware and intentional in those activities.
Yeah, and for me, what I like to do is like 9:30 to 3:30 is like my revenue generating hours. So I tend to want to go ahead and work on activities that is going to generate revenue. And I've communicated this same philosophy to my team. And what's amazing about it is that the things that used to be urgent prior are no longer urgent, right? I remember that I was at a space before where everyone would call me up or text me during my revenue generating hours. And I land sometimes finishing some days like getting nothing done. But one, when I scheduled that out, and two, when I actually start scheduling when I'm going to go to emails. Like people know, like my team and people that are close to my network, if they send me an email, they really want my attention with it, they'll actually text me and say, "Hey, Tony, I just sent you an email." So try to think about what distracts you most and then use that as a baseline to decide how you want to schedule your time accordingly. The third one is define and defy the culprit. So what do I mean by that? We're often inclined to open different things while we're working on something. So you may think to yourself, I won't respond to any emails, but I just need to check really quick, like literally right now. It's interesting because I'm mobile right now today and I don't have notifications on my phone for text messages or anything that comes through. However, though, I'm on my car dashboard, a text message just came through. And it said someone's number, like, I don't know who that number is. And I was that close to looking at it. Why don't we want to do that? Why don't we want to go ahead and open up that inbox or check your phone or check your social media when you're working on something that you want to focus on?
Well, one, I think it's natural to like, oh, just this one. And then it's like 5 of them. And then all of a sudden 20 messages later. and then you're in a full conversation back and forth with somebody. And then all of a sudden 2 hours has probably passed and you're like, oh crap, like that was just supposed to be one message. So I think it's just to be aware of it. And it's easy to be distracted when you know that something has to be done and you're just like, I don't have the energy to do it right now. I just don't feel like doing it right now. Oh, I'm just tired. And you start to let the feelings dictate your actions. Where if you just start doing, a lot of the times those feelings subside and you're like, well, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be, because we tend to do a lot of things based on what we feel like doing versus what we know is the right thing to do.
And feelings aren't always facts, right? And I know that like notifications, like I'll give you a story. So there was a coworker of mine that was always answering our group Google chat. Like someone put a message in there and like you'd seen a day, people would ask questions and they would go ahead and probably answer 6 or 7 of those throughout the day, if not more. And someone came up to me and says, does so-and-so ever really work? I like, do they ever have a plan? I'm like, what do you mean? They're always answering messages, and they don't wait for it. And I think that's a trap to be mindful of too. If you're reactive to go ahead and responding to messages as soon as they come, you literally can feel that can be actually an energy zap, right? Sometimes I've seen this too, is where I've been in a meeting and or about to go into a meeting and I'm gonna check my messages. That's a no-no. And when I actually have that conversation with myself and say, no, not gonna do it, I actually feel good, even though there's this pull that says, check your messages, check your emails, you know. I like those little mini battles, and eventually you start winning them more because you're more intentional to it. So here's what I would recommend is if you get good about sticking to your word, those distractions will take up less space in your mind, right? If you don't, what happens is they're all sharing your mind space and energy. If you ever have those days which you feel like completely wiped out, it's because you're distracted. So if you think about distractions for you, then I know some of my distractions. What are they and how often do they happen? For me, it's text messages. I find out that I'm also more distracted when I am not, my plan for the day isn't as dialed in. Like that's what I find for myself. What are some distractions that you have, and how often do you think they happen?
Some distractions for me, I think anytime that I know that's on my plan to do cleaning or laundry or chores that are just not very glamorous to do, everything else sounds appealing to do. So I think just recognizing the things that I don't necessarily like to do, but know that once they're done, I feel better about, are my things that I can easily get distracted from. So it could, any distraction, whether it's birds flying through the backyard or whatever it is, like it's like squirrel. Like I will do anything when I know that it's not a glamorous thing that needs to be done.
Well, speaking of glamour, that leads us to the next part of eliminating, and that's stop multitasking. I get it. Some people are proud to say, I'm a great multitasker, and it feels like a huge accomplishment. But in reality, there's a time and a place for multitasking if you multitask 24/7, right? But chances are you're only focusing a portion of your efforts toward essential tasks. And what happens, 100% becomes broken into smaller percentages, like 10% towards exercise, 10% towards, family time, and so on. So for me, multitasking, I've learned, doesn't really work. I'm not mastered the art of it. I could say I'm good with it, but I don't know about you. But have you ever been in a situation, Danielle, where you're in a conversation and you're multitasking and you miss what the other person was saying?
Oh, totally. I think about my mornings every morning. I'm like, oh, I'm multitasking. I'm getting Ezekiel's lunch ready. I'm getting Tony's coffee ready. I'm getting Tony's lunch ready. Oh, the coffee's making. I'm making the sandwich. And I'm really not multitasking. I'm still doing one thing at a time. And until it's
Right.
finished, I don't have another task that I'm working on because in reality, you can only focus on one thing. So it's like, yes, if you are on your phone text messaging and having a conversation with somebody that's in front of you, you will either hear the conversation or you will be answering the text message. You can't do both.
That's called phubbing. That's Phubbing. You can actually look it up. It's actually a real term. And I've been in conversations with people. We're having a conversation, and they're on the phone literally texting, and all of a sudden they start laughing. I'm like, what was funny about that? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm here. No, you're not. I will literally stop and just wait until they put the phone away. Or like if you're on a conference call. Oh, I'm fine. They don't know. I'm sorry. The camera sees what you're going to, you know. Um, and that takes discipline, especially if you've been doing this so much, you don't realize the effect it's having. The next part in terms of eliminating distractions is targeting your habits. Agree or disagree? Habits can either be very good or very bad.
Oh, habits, yeah. I mean, depends on what you're doing.
And what I've learned is that bad habits can actually be the death of my success. And the thing is, you don't realize it while you're doing it, but bad habits are contagious. It becomes this domino effect. It leads to here, it leads to here, it leads to here. Before you know it, all hell is broken loose. So when you think about habits, bad habits, good habits, don't just think about work habits. Think about life habits, right? Um, if you were to write down a list of some bad habits, what would you put down on? Like for me, I'll give you examples. Bad habits is checking email and not doing anything about it. That's a bad habit. I have my mail app on my phone is way too. I have to inconveniently go to all the way to the very back screen to look at email. So that's a bad habit of mine. Another bad habit that I will have at times is I'll spend too much time on social media sometimes. I'll get caught up in a little spin. If I don't tell myself in my brain, I am done with it at this time, or on days, like I said, I don't have a good enough plan, I'll check it more often. And it's not like, the world ended if I didn't check something. The world didn't end if I didn't like something.
And guess what? It tells you what happened 5 days ago, even if you do miss something. So it's
It
not.
does. It does. This is a true story. And here's another one when it comes to eliminating, like finger things, eliminate is work on your attitude. Distractions may always be there, but it begins and ends with you. So, what are some things that you've done, Danielle, to proactively work on your attitude? And by doing so, well, how has it helped you in terms of different areas of your life?
I think a lot of for us, like our attitude, we've just realized like it could always be worse. And by stewing on it and thinking about it and allowing it to just continue to spiral into a more negative place, that the energy that I've wasted on doing all that, I could have gotten 20 other things done. And I think it's easy to get caught in the trap of being like having a negative attitude or feeling negatively towards something or something not going your way and just being upset about it. Like it's not gonna change that it happened. It is what it is. And so I think we've just worked really hard at just knowing like, hey, it's not gonna be that bad. Like, let's move on. Like, think about it, feel about it, and then just let's move on because it could always be worse. And I think that's just something that as a family we've really worked on. And it's not always like every single day is like that or every single moment that happens, but we've recognized it enough that we can snap out of it a lot sooner and move forward, and we have that accountability team as a family to be able to do that too.
Well, I think that's where, it's important. Like, when you start working on, like, do you want to be a better husband? Do you want to be a better wife? Do you want to be a healthier person? Do you want to be a better leader? If you want to be better at something, you got to work at being better at it, right? Because it brings you bring an intentional awareness around that subject, that topic, whatever it may be. And I think about all the different areas in my life and what I've achieved, like what I would deem as successful, is because I actually said, I am going to do this well. And that takes work, and it takes focus. I wrote this down. There's no way to dream big without being focused on your dreams. If you're not focused on your dreams, someone else is going to have you focus on their dreams. It was interesting. Last night, I think it was yesterday, I had bought some caramel popcorn from this convenience store. And you could tell I had a lot on my mind the day before, because I'm like, I walk in and I look at this guy. I'm like, was I here yesterday? I literally could not, I had that moment where I just couldn't remember what happened the day before. And because he was wearing the same shirt too. That might have been something like a deja vu moment. I bought this caramel popcorn. And what was funny about it was really stale. I get in the car, I'm like, ooh, I'm going to have some caramel popcorn. This is getting some yummy stuff, right? Small batch, gourmet stuff. And it was staler than stale. I'm like, and part of me was like, I'm going to go ahead and accept it for what it is. I'm like, no, I have some goals I want to have for 6 months. And I paid for it. So I went back, I'm like, hey, this bag of caramel popcorn is stale. And the guy is like, so what do you want me to do about it? I'm like, either refund or I can do an exchange. And he goes, well, what's the expiration date? I goes, June something. So we're standing in the aisle, and he's like, you can tell he's like perplexed, like not really sure what to do, because I wasn't part of his plan that night, right? And he takes a bite of it. He's like, oh, that is really stale. Oh. And it's like, it was sticking. He's like, it's stuck to my teeth. It's so bad. And he's like, so now what? I'm like, you new popcorn bag or a refund? He's like, and then we go to the till, and he's not having success on figuring out. He goes, you really ruined my night. I'm like, well, just talk to the caramel popcorn guy today. And it was interesting because he was just talking out loud during that last night. And I believe that I could have easily gotten offended with what he was saying. Like, because in reality, he was saying it was my fault that caramel popcorn was bad. But because I'm like, you don't have to respond to things right away, right? You can just smile. And when you work on your attitude first, you find a way to get yourself pumped up to take on some challenges, because, and like I like to say, like, well, if I don't do this, what's the cost? What's the cost of it? They say people are motivated by two things: pain or pleasure. And I am motivated a lot more by pain versus pleasure, which is really weird to think about. But when I am needing an extra little boost, that little extra kick in the butt, I say to myself, okay, what's going to cost for me by not doing this? And I just say, do it now. I literally say, do it now, sometimes like 50 times. Do it now, do it now, do it now, do it now, do it now. What are some other things that you found in terms of working on your attitude to help you out?
I think a lot of times just removing myself from the space, finding something else to do for that moment, because really, like, by me just sitting there and like thinking about it, like last night, there was stuff that happened at the volleyball game, and I just, at one point, I was just like, you know what, it's out of my hands. Like, I did what I could do at that moment, and I just needed to walk away and forget about it. And I went and did something else. And by an hour later, I was fine. Like, I'm just like, you know what, like, there's things in place for whatever was going to happen. So it just really, like, understanding like there's only so much of the situation I can control, and just finding something else to do, and then revisiting it. Like, what could I have done differently the next time that it comes up? And reevaluating from that standpoint. So.
Well, that's great. And sometimes we just gotta walk away from it, like, okay, because if you feel yourself getting tense, like, what good is that serving you? And it's like, eventually, what's gonna happen is you become so intentionally aware of it that you can catch yourself when you're about to go down that path. So as we close up today, in terms of step 3, in the workbook, if you haven't got the workbook yet, I encourage you to, if you can see it, maybe not, maybe so. You guys get the hint. I encourage you to reach out to us to get the workbook for you. There's no cost to you. It's our gift to going ahead and helping everyone become rare leaders, as we say, leaders who are resourceful, adaptable, resilient, and willing to engage with others. So here's what you do. All you do is simply write up down a list of any potential distractions that might be causing your focus to waver. They can be internal, so you're checking social media too much. They can be external, friends call you just to drop in chat. And there's off-track ones. These are the tasks that you do that don't propel you towards your guiding light goal. So that's what you'll do on here. And this list is important because it gives you an idea of the behaviors or the distractions you need to eliminate. And next week, we're going to talk about step 4, and that's delegation. And it's one of the best ways to eliminate distractions in your life. So as we close up here, Danielle, when it comes to eliminating, final thoughts.
I just think really take a look at what you all have going on in your day. And if you feel at the end of the day that you've accomplished nothing, it's really a good idea to sit down, and in the workbook, it walks us through like doing daily, like 3 check-ins a day, and each day, and seeing like, because each day is different. We don't know, like your Mondays may contain different activities and things going on than a Thursday does. And so just really like looking each day what is going on, and at some point there may be a common distraction, and now you can kind of realize and recognize the things where you are able to take back some of that intentional time of your own.
Yeah, big deal. And the thing is, what you focus on expands. You're focusing on nothing expands. Until next week, folks, I'm Tony Jalen, joined by the wonderful Danielle Jalen. I thank you for joining us for another Rare Life Conversation. We will be back here next Tuesday at 12:01 p.m. to 12:31 p.m. Your 30-minute check-in to go ahead and live your best life. Until next